Hey there, it's me Eden, welcome to my channel. As you know, I have already published more than 94 videos on YouTube without getting a single penny from YouTube. My Patreon income is about $32 till now, after platform fees and taxes. Your support will help me to create content regularly. So, please donate me even $1 possible. Support link in the comment. Thanks. That is not Crystal. That is Miss Prudy. The love of your life. Put all other thoughts out of your head. Fill your head and your heart with lust for the beautiful creature in your arms. You would die for her. Kill for her. But Mr. Tucker, it's just that Crystal is. I told you that is not Crystal. It is Miss Prudy. Very well, it's just that Miss Prudy is. Is what, dear boy? Say it. Miss Prudy is a minor. I can't kiss a child. There are no children here. Only actors. And real actors transcend the boundaries of the physical world and exist on a metaphysical plane. Now take the love of your life in your arms and kiss her. Captain Martin took hold of me and bent me backwards, as Mr. Tucker had done, and kissed me. I heard clapping and supposed that it was Mr. Tucker simulating the audience reaction. Captain Martin stayed with his lips pressed to mine until the clapping stopped. Then he slowly backed off and raised me up. I immediately went into character and we finished up the scene. Mr. Tucker was pleased with the initial attempt, but pointed out some flaws and had us practice it over and over again. After a dozen kissing scenes, Captain Martin had overcome his original hesitancies and treated me as if I was truly the love of his life. For my own part, I became more comfortable in the awkward position, having learned to trust that he was not going to drop me on my head. I also become more comfortable with being kissed by a man, telling myself that I was merely an actor touching my lips to those of another actor. I told myself that it was no more significant than shaking hands. We practiced the scene over and over until Mr. Tucker was satisfied with Captain Martin's performance. My own performance was immaterial since I was not the actress filling this role, but Mr. Tucker spent as much time correcting and helping me, as he did with Captain Martin. The actress who was Miss Prudy would have to practice this over and over also, when her regular job allowed her to be here. But Mr. Tucker said that that would provide Captain Martin with more practice as well, and since Captain Martin really controlled the timing of the scene, he could always use the extra practice. When we broke for the day, I went to the powder room to touch up my makeup. My lipstick was virtually gone and my face and hair were a mess. As I fixed myself, Debbie came in. Crystal, you were wonderful today. You're so lucky to have all that time practicing with Rick. He's so handsome. I think that he's the perfect Captain Martin. He just about wore my lips out today. I'm surprised that I don't have blisters on them. Oh, stop it. You were having the time of your life. I could see it in your face. Don't think that you could fool me. I was only acting. That's what we're supposed to be doing, you know. You're not that good of an actress yet. I admit that you have an excellent sense of timing, and you always hit your marks, but I could tell that you were enjoying yourself. Now make yourself beautiful and I'll give you a ride home. I finished my repair work and picked up my purse. Debbie and I left the theater and walked to her car. She let her hand stray to my knee several times as she drove to my house. I always picked it up and put it back on the shift knob. At my house, she leaned over and kissed me on the mouth. I pulled away quickly in case any neighbors were watching and got out of the car. She said, I'll pick you up around 7:30, okay? I'll be ready. I turned and walked to the house. Debbie was still watching me when I reached the door and turned the handle. I waved to her and she waved back before driving away. I went inside and sat down in the kitchen with Aunt Jess and Mom. Dinner was simmering on the stove and would be ready shortly. Mom asked me about my day. I spent it kissing a man at the theater. You did what? She said with a look of total surprise on her face. I laughed and told her about my afternoon of acting with Rick, the actor portraying Captain Martin. Aunt Jessica said, "Crystal, are you going to be in the play after all?" "No, Aunt Jess. I was just standing in for the actress who plays Miss Prudy. She couldn't get off from work today, and Mr. Tucker wanted Rick to get some practice with the third act because it's so important. She should be there tomorrow." "Why did they choose you to stand in?" "I'm the assistant to the director. I know all of the dialogue and I cue the actors when they forget their next line. I also stand in for any of the actors that can't be there when rehearsals are conducted. I have portrayed every part in the play so far." "How do you like the job so far?" "It's been the most wonderful time of my life. I've learned so much and had so much fun. I feel like the luckiest girl in the world." Mom and Aunt Jessica exchanged glances and I realized what I had just said. I opened my mouth to correct my last statement, but Mom said, "I think that the stew should be ready. Crystal, will you please set the table? Jess, will you slice the Italian bread please?" Carol got home just as I finished setting the table. We sat down and ate dinner as soon as Mom had dished up the stew. During dinner, the topic of conversation became my role at the theater again. None of the others had ever had any experience with theater, so they paid close attention as I explained how things worked behind the scenes. When dinner was over, Carol and I cleared the table and cleaned up. Mom made a pot of tea and we sat back down to have our tea before I had to get ready to go out. Carol was going to the mall with her friends and had invited me along. I thanked her for the invitation and told her that I had made plans to go over to a friend's house tonight. When we had finished our tea, Carol and I went upstairs to get ready to go out. I removed my dress and used the bathroom before getting dressed again. Carol came in and retightened my corset before I put my blouse and skirt on. The blouse was similar to the peasant blouse that I had worn on Wednesday. It was very low cut and barely covered my bra. The skirt was a black miniskirt that was so tight that I could barely sit down in it. Carol put a pair of black, single-strap heels on my feet. The 4-inch heels would make me almost as tall as Debbie unless she was wearing heels as well. I fixed my face and hair and went downstairs just as I heard a car horn outside. I looked out and saw Debbie's Toyota out front. I walked out to the car after saying goodbye to Mom, Aunt Jessica, and Carol. Debbie pushed the door open to me as I approached, and she drove away as I adjusted the seatbelt. We drove around downtown for a while, then headed south out of the city. Debbie pulled into a driveway in a quiet residential neighborhood. Pressing a button on a remote control, the garage door rose up and then closed again after Debbie drove inside. Debbie leaned over and kissed me on the lips. She said, "Crystal, you look so hot tonight. I could just eat you up." I said, "Thanks, you're looking great too." "Is this where you live?" "No, this was my Gram's house. She's in a nursing home now. My folks haven't decided what to do with this house yet. I told them that I would love to have it as a graduation present when I graduate from college. My dad grew up here, so he is very sentimental about it." We walked into the house and Debbie turned the stereo on. Then she led the way into the kitchen. She took out a couple of glasses and poured some clear liquid into them from a glass decanter. She handed one to me and took the other for herself. I tasted it and it was good. It tastes like peppermint. She said, "It's peppermint schnapps. Sip it slowly cause it will hit you all of a sudden if you drink it too fast." I had never had more than a small sip of liquor before. The schnapps gave me a warm feeling in my stomach. We went into the living room. Debbie started moving to the music and I joined her. When a slow song came on, we put down our glasses. Debbie put her arms around my body and pulled me in close. I put my arms up around her neck. She had worn low heels, so she was only a couple of inches taller than I was. As we danced, she dropped her hands lower and lower until she was pulling me to her, with her hands under my tush. I had only had about an ounce of schnapps, but I was definitely feeling it. I had a warm glow all over. After the dance, we sat and drank a little more of our drinks. I was sitting next to Debbie on the couch. She leaned me forward and turned me as she pushed me down so that I wound lying face up across her lap. She took my drink from hand and set it on the table. She began to stroke my hair and talk to me. "I can't tell you how jealous I was today. Watching you kiss Rick over and over. I wanted to run up onto the stage and pull you from his arms." "Were you jealous of me, or of Rick?" "Of Rick, of course. I wanted to be up there kissing you." She bent over and kissed me. She cradled me in her arms and lifted me to her. I helped by putting my arms around her neck and helping to draw us together. I had never had much practice at kissing before today, but I felt like a practiced pro after hours with Rick. Debbie's lips were soft and supple compared to his tight, firm lips. After several minutes, Debbie inserted her tongue into my mouth and started to rub my tongue and explore my mouth. We kissed for a long time as the music played and the liquor warmed my stomach. Debbie was pretty, and apparently came from a family with money. I finally worked up the courage to ask an important question. "Debbie, why me?" "Crystal, you're special. You combine the best of both boys and girls. You can be both a lover and a girlfriend. I've been excited since I first saw you in the restaurant last Sunday. And you haven't disappointed me. You are as gentle, tender, and patient as a woman is. You're wonderful. I'm so happy that we've been brought together." We talked for a long time and then we went into the bathroom, washed up, and fixed our makeup. Afterwards, Debbie drove me home. In front of my house, we kissed before I got out and walked to the door. As always, Debbie waited until I entered the house before driving away. The downstairs was dark, but Carol was still awake. She came into my bedroom when I turned the light on. She wanted to know what we did, but I told her that I was too tired to talk about it. I said that I would tell her in the morning. She loosened my corset and returned to her room. I readied myself for bed as quickly as I could and then climbed under the sheet. I think that I was asleep before my head hit the pillow. The next morning, I arose early and went downstairs to start breakfast. Carol came in as I began cutting up ingredients for omelets. She helped me by dicing the cheeses. "Crystal, what did you and Debbie do last night?" "We drove around downtown for a while, then we went to her grandmother's house and listened to music. It was just a relaxing evening." "Did you go to the mall as you had planned?" "Yes. We ran into Pete and Sean there. I wish that you had come, but we'll see them tonight." We all shared a pizza and talked for a couple of hours. "I think that Heather is interested in Sean." "Sis, if you're not careful, you'll lose him. I didn't want to say that I wasn't worried about losing him. Carol wanted this relationship to blossom and I wanted her to be happy. So I played along and said, if Heather can turn his head away from me, then he wasn't really interested in me in the first place. We'll see how he feels after tonight. Mom and Aunt Jessica had come in just as I spoke. They sat down at the table and I took the omelet orders. While I cooked, Carol made a pot of tea. When the first 2 omelets were ready, I put them onto plates and brought them to the table. Then I cooked the omelets for Carol and myself, and when they were ready, I brought them to the table and sat down to eat. Please subscribe for the next part, and visit my Patreon page for early access. Patreon.com/Eden07. Link in the comment, thanks. Please subscribe for the next part, and visit my Patreon page for early access. Patreon.com/Eden07. Link in the comment, thanks.